If you're engaged in academic writing, then how to find references is probably a common challenge. So in this video, we've compiled several tips that we've gathered from our own experience and from our viewers. So keep watching if you're new to academic writing or if referencing is just a painful experience. So we have timestamps in the description below so you can quickly come back and navigate through the content or jump to the relevant sections. And if you find this video useful, we'd love it if you'd consider just hitting like, subscribing to our channel, or sharing our content with people who may benefit. So jumping straight in. So the first question we receive is, how many references do you need? Now it does depend. Ideally, we're always told aim for around 4 or 5 references per 500 words, which I guess is 1 in 100 words if you do the maths. Now some assignments will give you a specific target, but that target should really be seen as the bare minimum number of references. I always use the rule that if you've made a claim or an opinion, then consider putting a reference in. Now ultimately there's also a bit of an assumption that more references equals more research. So as long as they're appropriate references, you really should aim for more than less. Now another question we received relates to the quality of references. So remember, references exist to validate the claims that you are making. So they should be peer reviewed and published in a reputable journal. So for example, the New England Journal of Medicine is seen as a better reference than John's Home Remedy Journal of Southeast Nowhere. A book or an article isn't ideal since the reality is anybody can write them without needing to prove their opinions. And the same goes for websites, blogs, Wikipedia, and YouTube videos. It doesn't mean you can't use them. Sometimes it's exactly what you're looking for, but just don't use them too much. And remember, while yes, most of you are just writing essays to pass the subject and move on, your paper probably is not intended to shift global perception. However, the principle of academic writing is to introduce a new perspective or share experience. So the purpose of the references is to show how your unique perspective is supported by existing knowledge. It's a way of showing that you know the field in which you're raising an opinion in. So no references would just be a blog by some random person. It might be a really good blog and it might even be interesting and correct, but references will tell potential leaders that it's actually worth their time. So in this next section, we're going to have a look at some specific sources that you can use to actually find some references. So let's jump online and have a look. So here we are online. A few of these techniques can be a little more controversial. However, we have tested them all out. They do seem to work pretty well. So first things first, and that's using your school or university online library resource. It's simple, it's got access to a lot of databases. Chances are your school or university have subscriptions with a lot of the good journals, which means that you can really access full versions of a lot of really reputable sources. I'm using this one here from CQU. You'll find that most of the universities have very similar features and functions. So if I do a search for how technology builds a positive culture, hit search, and of course, we see our different results here. Now, you'll end up with hundreds of thousands of results. So in order to refine it, you're going to want to use the active filters. Again, every university will have similar ones. One of the more important ones to look at is something similar to peer-reviewed journals. Now, if I click on that, you'll see that I get still a couple of 100,000 reviews or results, but it's now showing me only results which have been peer-reviewed and published in a peer-reviewed journal. So that really helps you find some better quality references for your writing. So when it comes to your search terms, I tend to put in fairly detailed descriptions, hit peer reviewed and try my luck and hope to find a really good reference. If not, try cutting it down to some really basic words and then refining that by adding more detail as you get more results and get more of a direction for your research. So the next one that you'll probably want to consider is Google Scholar. Now, this is a very popular tool to find references. A couple of really good things about it. It's Google, so it's a lot more intuitive and it's a lot more forgiving. So if you don't quite get the phrasing right or there's a couple of small typos, it will still give you some pretty good results. So once again, if we put in our search terms, and you'll find that it brings up all the results. Now, Google Scholar will give you books, articles, journals, all sorts of different things. So you may want to consider the filters down the side. 2 key tips when using Google Scholar. First of all, using the and or search commands. So here I can look for technology and culture, or I could look for schools. So I can look for technology and culture or schools, and you'll find that it will give me different results based on that. So using the and or commands does help you to refine your searching. Now, the other great thing about Google Scholar is down here, you'll see underneath each reference, it says cited by, and it's got a number. Now that number means that in this case, 4,416 different publications have cited this particular book, the Challenger Launch Decision. And if I click on that, Google will then give me those 4,416 publications which have used that same reference. So it's a really good way of identifying publications that probably relate to what it is that you're writing about. Now, if I do a search within that, if I'm looking for interests, I can tick this little box that says search within citing articles. And when I do a search, it will just look for that keyword only in that list of publications that has also used that reference. So this is a fantastic way of refining and narrowing your search until you find the ideal reference. So we mentioned toward the start of the video, the importance of using peer-reviewed journals and peer-reviewed references. Now you can go to some sites such as omicsonline.org. We'll pop the link in the description below. But there are some really good sites out there that if we scroll down, you'll see it gives you all of the different journals from all the different fields of study. So all of these are peer-reviewed journals. So it gives you a really good starting point if you're just looking for a very specific pool of information in a very specific field and you're looking for something that's peer-reviewed. So if I have a look here, for example, biochemistry and physiology, and if I look for something like kidney disease, so it takes me to that specific journal. And now you can see I'm getting all of these peer-reviewed. So peer-reviewed here, peer-reviewed full articles relating to my topic. And it's just from this one journal. So that's another really, really good way of finding some references for your work as well. Now, the next way to find some references, and hear me out, don't disconnect or throw anything at the screen, it's Wikipedia. And before you say anything, now, Wikipedia is not an appropriate source for academic referencing. It's not the right quality. You should not be referencing Wikipedia in your essays or your reports or your research. But it does have 2 really good attributes, which is worth using. Now, first of all, I'll type in something on innovation, for example. Now, it will give you a simplified version of the topic that you're looking for. Now, this is useful for a couple of reasons. First of all, a lot of references in academic writing, a lot of academic authors just get off on using 17-syllable words because they think it makes them sound more intelligent. In the modern day, of course, if you can explain a topic to a 6-year-old, then you actually know it. So it's a little bit outdated. But that aside, using a more simplified version of your topic will give you some really simple keywords that you can use that you can then plug into your school library or into Google Scholar. Now, the other good thing about it, of course, is if you scroll down to the bottom of an article, usually you'll find a whole list of references. Now, admittedly, most of these references are pretty crap. However, sometimes you'll come across a useful one. Some of them are some fairly good journals and publications. The other reason why this is helpful, though, is it can give you a starting point. If you just don't know where to find a particular reference, this can identify some topics, some keywords, and some authors that you can type into other databases in order to get the ball rolling. So it's definitely worth using as a starting point for your research. So another way of finding some good references is to effectively double dip. Now, what do I mean by that? When you find an article or a reference that is useful for your paper, it's always worth scrolling down to the bottom and check the reference list or the bibliography on that particular reference. Now, in theory, the reference you've already found will probably have done research of their own and found sources that supports their opinions already in a similar topic or a similar field that you're already writing about. So what you can do is have a look at their references. What you may find is some headings and some topics which directly relate to what you're looking for, so win. Or you might also find some authors that you can go and search for, because if they've already written articles for someone's reference, chances are they've already done a bit of research on the field and they may have some other publications. So every time you find a good reference, always go through their references and see if there's something similar that you can draw out and use for yourself. Now, if you get really stuck and you are looking for different references, just do a general Google search. And it's not ideal, but it will come with a couple of good benefits. First of all, it will help you understand whether the topic or the opinion you're looking for exists in the first place. As they say, if you can't find any references to support your opinion, then it's quite possible that your opinion might be wrong. So search Google, have a look what's out there. What you also might find is just some useful articles that are printed, maybe not peer-reviewed journals, but still reputable enough sources, such as the Harvard Business Review, for example. That might give you a reference you can use. It's not ideal, but in small doses, you can use references like that. But once again, if you can find a general public article or an opinion piece, it will help you look for keywords and authors that play in that space. So you can then go and search for those things on Google Scholar or in your school library. And the last one to have a look at is if you use Endnote or another reference management tool. So in Endnote, for example, you'll find that there's an online search mode or an integrated library. So if I click on the online search mode, I can search for different publications, such as in PubMed. I can look for kidney disease and do a search. And you'll see it comes up with 904,000 different references. So I can just hopefully look for the first 5 results with that one. And you'll see it's brought up these results. So the good thing is it's already in my reference management system. I can find good references, search for the PDF, and instantly insert it into my database, which I can use for doing my in-text citations and my Word document. So if you don't use Endnote, I suggest you absolutely have a look. It is a lifesaver. It saves a lot of time. We do have a video on how to use that, of course, so have a look in the description. But that is another way of finding a different pool of resources or another pool of references. So search words and combinations, start vague and then narrow down based on the results that you find. Consider typing in the exact phrasing from your essay, then narrow it down based on keywords. Also, whether you use the numerals for numbers or write the number as a word will also impact your results, as will punctuation. So when it comes to using references, now personally I write all of my essays and reports first, and then I go through sentence by sentence and search for references to support my claims. Some people start with the references and then create a story around them. Ultimately, whatever works for you. Either way, you want to make sure that your references are referenced and used in your writing. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can use direct quotes, you can paraphrase the author, or you can consider the essence of the reference. Either way, just make sure that the reference relates to your topic, it supports your opinion, and it's included in both the in-text citations and the bibliography or reference list. The format will depend on the method your university or your course uses. And of course, when you're paraphrasing or using someone else's work, there is that fine line sometimes between plagiarism and paraphrasing. So the reference should just support your opinion and your ideas. What you shouldn't be doing is literally taking the wording out of other people's work and claiming it as your own. So how about finding what you need within a reference? So say you found a reference, it seems like it might support your argument. Now in the perfect world, you are meant to have read all your references. It's how you learn, it's how you become informed and make an informed decision. However, since I know that, let's be honest, 99% of you are probably just looking for a suitable reference to put in and move on as fast as possible, there's a couple of quick tips that you can look at. So when you find a potential reference, first of all, start with the abstract, skim through that and have a look at what the conclusions and the principles are for the writing. Next, jump to the conclusion, have a look if there's any phrasing or anything in there that supports your premise so that you can justify using the reference. Thirdly, do a keyword search and look for sentences on either side of the keyword. And finally, if you find a good sentence that sounds like it supports your essay, then add a version of that to your essay. So for example, you can easily add a sentence to the start or the end of an existing paragraph which maybe says something like, which is supported by Smith who found X. So in other words, find a reason to add the reference in order to support your opinion, or rewrite your opinion to align with the reference. Another example, if you write up is better than down, then the reference says people like up and down equally. Then what you may do is rewrite your sentence to read, Smith found that a large percentage of people preferred up, which is still technically true. It's what you wanted to say, it just aligns with what the reference actually says so that you can put it in there and move on. Now, some final tips. The chances of someone checking every single reference is slim. However, it's better for your learning and it's good ethical practice to find real references that actually relate to your paper. Now, I do know of people who have included random references or references that contain a single sentence that supports their story, even if it's completely unrelated to their field or topic. So let's have a quick look at a hypothetical, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, for example, if you were looking for something to support the connection between energy drinks and bad behavior in children, then you could probably find a paper on aggression in malnourished dogs, and there'll be a sentence in that that says, nutrition has a strong impact on behavior. Now, it's peer-reviewed, and you believe the essence of that statement applies to child behavior and nutrition. Can you use it? So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Assessors read thousands of papers, and most of them look very similar. So they'll often look for key indicators that you actually know what you're doing. So having good quality references and using the correct formatting will be some key points that indicate that you understand that you do know what you're doing. So make sure you start strong with some good quality references from the start. That will really help. First impressions really do matter when it comes to people assessing your work. And remember, use Endnote. We have a video on Endnote. I'll pop their details in the description that you can check out if you need a tutorial. But it makes referencing so much easier and faster. If you like doing things manually, then that's all good, but I highly recommend you check out some of the software that's now available. So do you have any other good tips for finding references? Feel free to share them in the comments section, and also remember, hit like and subscribe if you did find this video useful. Thanks again for watching, and good luck with your studies.